Morning, Heikki. Thank you for making time to do an interview for the Tech Diplomacy Network this morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Christina. I'm very good today. Very happy to be joining you today from sunny San Francisco.
So, Heikki, you are a professional Finnish career diplomat that is now in San Francisco. I would be really curious to learn more about your career steps, and then we'll get to what you're actually doing in San Francisco. But if you could just give us an overview of yourself and of your work.
Sure. So I joined the Finnish Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2010, and I've been posted in Moscow, United Nations, Washington, Brussels, both to the EU and NATO, and then now here in San Francisco, where I'm affiliated at Stanford University as a visiting fellow for a year on a Fulbright scholarship. My career has mainly been focusing on security policy issues, but also development policy, and in recent years, more and more focusing on tech issues.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. So you and we met about a month ago, just recently after your arrival, and you joined us last week for the Innovation Summit in San Jose. So you're doing a research right now at Stanford as part of your fellowship. And please take us through the goals of your fellowship and of your research in the Bay.
Sure. So my focus area is tech diplomacy, or as I adopted in my research proposal, as digital foreign policy. There are many different names for this topic of our mutual interest. And it's very hard to encapsulate them in all the things that it encompasses in a couple of words. But basically, it is a line of diplomacy that is becoming more and more relevant for many governments, including my own. As you know, Finland is a high-tech country by background with a lot of internationally well-known companies in this space. And now we as governments also need to build our own narratives around what is it that we want to achieve when it comes to the technological transformation, because there are many issues that relate to foreign security, development, or trade policies that governments need to grapple with. But having said that, at the same time, the technology, when you speak about technology issues, it's not purely a matter for governments only. As you know, it's very much a multi-stakeholder effort where also the private sector, civil society, academia play a very important role. And therefore, just the way that tech diplomacy is implemented, it should also be developed. So this is kind of what brings me as a Finnish diplomat to Stanford, to learn from different stakeholders in putting together a strategy around how we want to conduct tech diplomacy in our own diplomatic efforts in the future.
Thank you. So we are very much on the topic of tech diplomacy. And are you, because this was sort of the last part of your sentence, a strategy. So are you working on a concrete document, a concrete proposal for a strategy for the Finnish government on tech diplomacy? Is that correct?
That is correct. My research will end up in concrete policy recommendations for Finland to pursue in its diplomatic effort when it comes to the intersection of tech policy and then foreign policy, security policy, development policy, and trade policy, which are usually the areas that ministries for foreign affairs deal with within their mandate. And with the strategy, I'm outlining the kind of objectives that we want to pursue in these different lines of effort, and then looking at also the means of how to put them in practice, and for example, the kind of partnerships that we want to strike, and how we should best leverage our diplomatic presence around the world to meet those objectives.
That's a big undertaking. So it's not only just to sort of pull it apart. So there's a theoretic concept, like the strategic concept, but you're also working on the implementation part.
That's right. I mean, in strategy documents, you don't go into the nitty-gritty of everything. I will try to keep it as macro level as possible, but just outlining objectives without looking at also how to put them into practice doesn't, in my view, lead to necessarily always the optimal results. So I think it's necessary to look at a little bit on the implementation side of things as well.
I love that it's really concrete, and as I haven't met yet other diplomats that came to the Bay Area to also conduct basically research here in order to write a strategy. So I'm going to ask you more technical details. Are several diplomats deployed around the world or to the Bay Area to do that research? Or is that you're the only one that is working basically from Stanford here, and that's going to be going into a policy recommendation? How does your government go about it?
I'm the only one currently working in a think tank environment around this topic. Of course, like I mentioned, part of the work is to try to gather as many ideas from different stakeholders, both in and outside government. So I'm canvassing a lot of our own diplomats around the world on how they deal with tech diplomacy issues in their work already, and what kind of initiatives and objectives they would like to see a digital foreign policy strategy for Finland to encompass. So I'm talking very closely with our whole diplomatic corps in key capitals around the world, and getting their insights as well to have the best kind of strategy document possible, that not only reflects what we already do, but also looks at what we could do more or better.
Fantastic. You're basically aligning. Also, what I like is the other practitioners, your colleagues around the world, listening to them, really aligning, and then paving or suggesting also like a meta level strategy for that. And maybe you don't know it yet, but in sort of your policy recommendation, do you know, or do you have an idea, or can you draft? It's a great example to talk to you. How does not the implementation, but so your policy recommendation, will it go to Parliament? Will it go, like, how does it going to be put forward in order to come to a decision? Do you have already like an understanding of that process, how it's going to be, how your work will be concretely decided upon?
Well, it's still a bit premature to say. Of course, it's always up to a political decision on what kind of strategy documents are in the end issued around given topics. What we have right now in our current government program is the recognition that tech issues should be elevated to the top of our foreign policy agenda. And the Foreign Service will also be reformed with the reflection of that objective. Then, of course, in implementing the strategy, one needs to look at not only having the kind of main parameters in place on paper, but also how you go about it in practice in terms of having adequate workforce in both in numbers and in skills. So training a future generation of tech diplomats is also a very key part of that effort, and that has been something that is already ongoing in our case for some time.
Thank you for sharing that. And because I'm just pointing out, because I feel there are many other governments worldwide that are trying to see how to deploy resources to that. So that's why I'm sort of trying to understand the different steps that the Finnish government has taken. And obviously it's a process that will be amended throughout the way, but thank you for sharing that. And my other question would be, how do you feel about why this year has been chosen basically to deploy you to the Bay Area to actually work on that concept? Has there been something, I mean, you said you have many practitioners, many colleagues working around the world on technological issues, right? But without the title probably tech diplomat yet. So why do you feel was it a critical time to deploy you in 2023?
Well, I think it is a partially an alignment of the stars, so to say, and of interest. There is a political demand, of course, to implement our government program in practice, and there is definitely need for input for that, which I'm helping with. There is also a good time now to also engage with other governments that are undergoing similar strategy work. I think in public, at least, United States and Denmark have also stated that they will be coming out with their own strategies focusing on the same set of topics in the coming months. So it's a very good time also to compare notes with other governments on how they want to go about things, and also to look at the possibilities for cooperation in implementing those respective strategies.
Thanks, Heikki. And my other question, so you're about 2 months right now in the Bay Area, right?
That's right.
I have experienced you as very active, very sociable, and very interested. So how is that process going for you in San Francisco, in the Bay Area? I mean, talking to colleagues from other governments, talking to academics in the field, and to tech companies. I assume you're also covering this part. So how has your experience so far been, and how helpful is it for you to be actually deployed here?
It is very helpful, I would say, because Silicon Valley is obviously very unique in the sense that it brings together all those different stakeholders that we want to be engaged with, be it the private sector or investor community or academia or civil society. So there's plentiful of options of people to talk to around here. But of course, I try to canvass also other parts of the world. So due to the time difference, I end up testing my social skills also at very early hours of the morning sometimes, or very late in the evening. But I think it's worth it. There is a mutual interest, I think, in having these kind of discussions also from non-governmental stakeholders with governments on how to outline and implement tech diplomacy, because we all do share the kind of same operating environment, and governments, of course, have a key role to shape that. But so does the private sector. So in engaging with companies, for example, I think there is the potential of finding this kind of accommodation and mutual understanding on what each other's roles are and where we can work together, and also where the private sector needs guidance also from governments on key issues, such as right now what everybody's talking about here in Silicon Valley is, for example, on AI governance. And there, of course, we as governments are running after the developments of some of these key technologies that the private sector is leading on. So there is a lot of need also on the government side to understand what is happening and also to prepare for the future. So for that reason, I think it's very important to have people with feet on the ground here where all of this is happening.
Well, Heikki, I think thank you for sketching your way of working here in the Bay Area and your way how to approach this topic in order to write that strategic and implementation paper. I'm really grateful that you took the time, and I'm obviously excited then to see the result of your work, maybe at a later point when you're done. On a very meta and high level, you might want to take us through again through sort of your findings if it's not confidential. So thank you so much. Good luck in your efforts across the different time zones and for your research in the Bay. Have a very good rest of your day.
Thank you, Christine. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thanks for elevating these topics in your work.
Absolutely.